So I'm up here on the site called locally Gomorrah, and this is the site that the archaeologists associated with Gomorrah. It was discovered as an early bronze site back in 1924. It was excavated in the 1960s and 1970s. And what archaeologists found here was this burn destruction that goes across this site. This city came to an end through a fire destruction. So off in the distance here, you can see Babydra, identified as Sodom. And then right here to the southwest is this massive cemetery that you can see with all these pits that mark its boundaries. And these are formed because of the locals for decades have been coming and digging into these graves looking for antiquities to sell in the antiquity market. And so it's estimated from the archaeologists that dug here back in the 60s and the 70s that there are around 500,000 people buried in this cemetery. And it's just staggering. And what's really intriguing then is that they found a burn destruction across the cemetery that happened at the same time that the city was destroyed. So the city and the cemetery were destroyed in the same fire disaster. And there's no reason why an army would attack a bunch of graves and burn a cemetery. And so this was one of the major reasons that they interpreted the destruction here as being caused by a natural disaster. In the excavation report, they show pictures of the bones in the graves that were warped by the heat. You can see there's ash right here, and human remains, bones, are all through this ash. As you can see, there's this destruction layer is filled with human bone remains. Here's some ribs found in this area. Burned pottery, a total burn destruction. The excavators here, the main excavator here is Walter Rast, who excavated also at Babydra. And he describes what they found in the excavations here at Gomorrah. He writes, "The burnt debris covering this site has appeared in almost every area excavated. Whatever the cause, it was certainly a tragedy. Obviously, the town suffered a severe fire and was forever abandoned." Now, despite Walter Rast being a secular archaeologist, his conclusion about what he found in the excavations at Babydra and here in Gomorrah were these. He says this: "In the author's opinion, the vicissitudes of these two early Bronze III cities of Babydra and Gomorrah may well be reflected in the stories of Sodom and Gomorrah in the Bible." What is it that burned these cities and the cemetery at Babydra? The Bible describes it as burning sulfur raining down from the sky. And is there anything that matches this description that's still left in the geological record in this area? So where are these sulfur balls coming from? They're coming from this geological formation. You can see sulfur balls, what is called in situ, in place. They're placed right here in this particular layer. So if I So what they're doing is they're eroding out of this, right? And then washing down in the ravines. And so you have all of these preserved in this geological layer that goes and goes and goes. And so that's where they're coming from. I'm gonna burn one of these sulfur balls just to show you how flammable they are. I gotta be careful because, man, when you get a whiff of these things, it's really nasty. Okay, so this is one of the reasons why sulfur balls would only be preserved in water, because if they strike the land, then they're going to burn up. You can see the goo, it's just melting down to goo and then dripping off. So really, anywhere that they would have landed on land, they would have burned up like this, and they would have burned anything flammable around them. This is how the cities in the plain were burned. However, if they would have hit the water of the Dead Sea, that would have extinguished them, and therefore they wouldn't have burned up, and they would have sank down to the bottom of the floor of the Dead Sea and been preserved in a geological layer.